to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I'm your host, Chris Quinn, coming to you, as always, from the Co-Prosperity Sphere here in Bridgeport, Chicago. Steamy here in Studio B today. So I'm going to turn on the... I just got a blast of AC, though. I don't know if somebody just uncovered that or what, but I'm going to turn on the fan just in case. We've got an event going on in Studio A, so it might just be a hot one, guys. Just get ready for it. Summer, late summer. Yeah, whatever. I want to thank everyone for listening. I want to thank Lumpin' Radio for having us on. And I want to thank the fearless leader, Logan Bay, for holding it down as always. We've got a new producer today. Serge couldn't make it, so Alex is what I was told. What do you go by? Cole. Okay, Cole. We have producer Cole here today, so it should be good. It was a little tough getting here today. We had a Bears game, a Sox game, construction on the highway, and also a Cubs game. So I think only one of our guests made it here on time. One of our guests is still to come.
It's true. Yeah. That was me, by the way, who was here on time.
Yes. Yeah.
I planned for it.
We were going to get to that.
Chris,
yeah.
I
mean, I did too, but I just didn't plan well enough, I suppose.
I think that's...
There's Studio A. There's an event going on. Anyway, I want to thank you guys for listening. If you're listening on 105.5 FM, on the FM band, or with our the app, the Lumpin' Radio app, I've got to drown the background out of. I'm having trouble talking now because I'm trying to also hear what's going on in the background. But if you guys are listening on the podcast, thank you as well. Feel free to leave a review. If this is your first time listening, hold off a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, maybe not on this episode.
Yeah, maybe not for the first couple minutes of this episode anyway. But thanks all the same for everyone who has done it. I think we're up to 100 reviews now, or 99. So if you look on there, come on, get us to 100. And the 100th one should be a 5-star, please. I mean, come on. I deserve at least one. So... but yeah, thanks guys for who leaves the all the reviews. I think we have almost entirely 5-star reviews, so I was just joking about that. Unlike Beer Pinions, which is mostly 1-stars, I've heard. It's
I don't think we have any reviews.
Oh, that's not true. For those listening for the first time, I like to say that the goal of this show is to open up a window into how the people making, selling, marketing, and facilitating the beer getting into your glass feel about the topics that are a part of their everyday lives, and that many of my greatest beer experiences have been talking about beer while sharing beer with people whose opinions I respect and admire. And it's these conversations that I try to recreate here on the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. And I want to quickly mention that everyone's opinions are their own and not necessarily affiliated with any other entity, such as, really any other entity, but specifically Lumpin' Radio, and after that I like to add the Beer Temple. So don't come after Lumpin' Radio or the Beer Temple for whatever silly beer opinions come out of our guests' mouths tonight. But with that, I will get to our guests. We introduce our guests by order of seniority, that being how many times they've been on the show, and it's a pretty clear order today. Mr. Pat Berger of, friend of mine and also owner of Kaiser Tiger, and Patty Longs, and host of Beer Opinions podcast.
Wow. I like how many times you've said Beer Opinions tonight, Chris. Thank you.
I'm trying to remind people.
I know. It's very nice.
To subscribe,
Yes.
Leave it a 1-star.
Yeah, we recorded one today.
Did you?
So I'm double podcasting today. It's a little exhausting. But I saved the best for yours.
Thank you.
Yes.
I appreciate it. Who was your guest today?
We went to Dovetail and had Bill and Hagen from Dovetail on.
Oh, on location?
On location. That's our new thing now.
Okay, cool.
Because we didn't think it sounded bad enough. Now we're really rolling the dice every time.
That's good. No, you've gotten the audio quality up, right?
Yeah, it's gotten better. Yeah. We had a train today. That was...
Anything else new? The train is right by
yeah. It was like the Blues Brothers movie. How else does the train go by? So often you won't even notice.
Yeah. Yep. I had a friend who lived right in here in Chicago. Especially parts of the Red Line and the Brown Line are right on the L, and he lived on like a second floor unit that was like you could look in from the
That's
train.
when like the sparks from the wheels are lighting up the room.
Yeah.
I lived in a place like that.
Yeah.
He would watch his TV with the closed captioning on. Before I moved to Chicago, there was we'll get to beer soon. There was an article. I was trying to consume all the stuff about Chicago. I was very excited about it, and there was something in the National Geographic about these apartments that are right on the L. And there was a story about a guy who lived, and some of these apartments, if you're right at one of the stops, it's like you have people in your room with you if you don't have the shades drawn. And one day he was getting ready for work, and he was like lost his keys. He was looking around, and he looks up, and there was a guy on the platform like pointing at him, like pointing over, pointing where his keys are.
I had a apartment that was just before, between Addison and Belmont, and the train stopped there because that's where the Brown Line comes in. And I came out of the shower, and some people that I work with, because I used to work downtown in an office, and there were people I work with on the train stopped there, saw me get out of the shower, and like they're like waving, and it's like
That's great.
That's not embarrassing at all.
No,
not at all. Not at all.
Well, yeah, everything else is good, Chris. I don't know.
Good.
I don't have much.
That's fine.
Yeah.
My next guest is also a former guest on Beer Opinions. Just
He
throw
is
that
our-
word out there again.
Thank you. He's our only 3-time guest, by the way.
Whoa.
3-timer, yes.
All right. I think this is your, fourth or fifth time on this show, Mr. Michael Roper of the Hop Leaf?
At least, yes.
Oh,
There you
yeah.
go.
Yep.
Yeah, bring that up.
Yeah. How are you? What's
Good.
new?
Things are good.
Yeah.
I'm just getting all sort of prepped to go to Belgium next week.
Oh, awesome.
So next week is the annual Brussels Beer Weekend, which I have attended several times, and I'm looking forward to doing it again.
Anything in particular that you have lined up?
I'm actually not going this year with an importer or like no breweries paying for my hotel room or anything. So I think that I'm going to be a freelancer this time and, kind of wander about myself. And, I'm bet that I'm going to be in some breweries, some that I've been in before. Maybe some that I haven't been into. I know I'm returning to the Brussels Beer Project, which I was introduced to last year. And I have...
Those guys were recently at Hop Leaf, weren't they?
They were. Dimitri was there just about a month ago. And, we're... I really like those guys. I like what they're doing. It's cool beer. It's different for Belgium.
Yes.
Belgium, like Germany, like a lot of countries that have been brewing beer for 1,000 years, there's not a lot of really new thinking going on, except for people like them.
Yeah, not a lot of variety, unlike here where it's not just hazy IPAs, for example, that you see all over the place. It's not like that there.
Are you sure it isn't?
Oh, wait, maybe it is just like that there. No.
That's also like the atmosphere in their
yeah.
tasting room. It's not like the old school tasting room that you would go to in a German or a Belgian brewery. It's loose. It's much more convivial in a modern way.
Yeah, much more kind of American craft beer inspired, I would think.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and when I was in Belgium most recently, people thought it was really interesting and novel and really kind of liked it. And the locals that place was probably recommended to me by locals as much as any place there, which was kind of cool. People not really deep into the scene, just people were like, oh, because beer's part of the culture there, so a lot of people are somewhat familiar with it, and that place came up quite a bit. Well, you've been to Belgium?
Yeah,
right, Pat?
yeah, 3 times, I think. Michael doesn't like to brag, but he is. What's the official title?
So there's the Chevalier de Brasseurs, which is the knighthood of the Brewers Mash Tun, and I am an honorary knight, and I have a medallion that I got in 2006. And one of the things I'll be doing next week will be going to the induction ceremony at the Brewers Guild for the new members of the knighthood. And
wow,
that it's really cool. I always bring that with me, of course, when I go to Belgium, because you can walk into a lot of pubs, and if you have that on, you're not going to buy a beer.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, that's pretty
Not
awesome.
because they're throwing you out; it's because they're going to buy you a beer.
Yeah, right? That'd be cool. Knight. Maybe I'll just wear a suit of armor next time I go, and they'll just assume that I have it on underneath.
Or that you're crazy. One of the two, they'll assume.
Well, either way, they'll be like, just give them beer.
Yeah.
Keep them happy. All right. That's cool. That's great. Have an awesome time. And when do you leave for that again?
I'm leaving Thursday.
All right. That's great. So let's move right along. Brian Kirby was scheduled to be on again. I think he's also stuck in this terrible traffic, but he has a lot further to go because he's out in the suburbs. So we'll see if he makes it. But for now, let's just talk about beers that we've had lately that we've enjoyed. Anyone want to go first?
It's that time of year again. It's Martzen time.
Yep.
And so everybody's coming out with their Oktoberfests, and there's some cool ones that I think are worth noting. We're pouring the Pollyanna Fruhoff.
I haven't had it.
It's
really good.
It's
Is
really,
it?
really, really good. And we always pour Metropolitans because it's
Afterburner.
excellent.
Great beer.
And then this year, Sierra Nevadas is a collaboration with Weinstefan.
Yep, I brought a bottle of that here.
And it's quite good.
It's nice.
I really, this is a style that, people have been making Oktoberfest since the very early days of the craft beer movement. And in fact, some breweries back before craft beer, like the regional beers breweries used to make an Oktoberfest, and they're usually really not good. But I think that this style has actually become kind of a favorite of mine now.
Yeah, me too.
They're real bready, and
so you like the bigger, heartier ones?
I like the malt forward, sort of, like a piece of, German bread.
Yeah.
And not overly alcoholic.
Mm-hmm.
I like those beers. I think they're really fantastic. They're a little heartier than the light beers we've been drinking all summer, but still easy drinking and really delicious. And they're not, we've been drinking a lot of hop bombs. Martzen beers are not. Hops is not the most important thing in a Martzen beer.
No, and they're, for those who may not be familiar, there's kind of two styles of Oktoberfest. There's the Fest style and then the Märzen style, and that one is the older, more traditional style, which is going to be more malt forward, often a little sweeter, where the Fest beers, which is a more modern take on it and what is more often consumed at Oktoberfest in Munich, is lighter, a little breadier than probably your typical German lager would be, but it's nice. I mean, I think they both can be good. I always like that the Eyinger is kind of the standard bear for me, and then I kind of judge everything else. But last year, Weichstefan's Fest beer, the lighter style, was amazing, and when we got it and I realized it wasn't the Märzen style, I was kind of upset, but it's good, and you can drink. Yeah, you can drink a lot.
I got
of
a keg of the Paulaner. They call it Weizen.
Great. Yeah,
and that's the beer served at Oktoberfest, and it's pretty easy to drink, man.
Yeah, it's good.
I think Victory makes the Fest beer style. They make one that's pretty good too.
They do, yeah.
Yeah, the Sierra Nevada one is cool. It's definitely on the a malt forward beer, a little darker, but dry, and a little tiny bit hoppier than you might expect, which is kind of their take on it. I thought it was delicious. I loved it.
Yep.
Yeah, I liked it. I had it.
And then I brought some Left Hand too, which in the past they've made ones that I've really liked. So I figured we could try that and see what we thought. How about you, Pat? Anything?
I was up in Madison for Great Taste.
How
first
was
time,
it? I missed it.
It was great. And
it was your first time?
No, first time in 15 years.
Wow.
Yeah, very long time since I worked for a brewery. So maybe longer. I don't know. But it was great. Had a great time and was reminded how much I love Summit. I haven't.
Yeah.
They pulled out of this market a while back. And,
Yeah.
they were one of those breweries that I tried very hard with, and they weren't wildly popular here in Chicago. I don't know why. In the late 90s, we had good success with their Hefeweizen, and then they pulled that out of them. I think they stopped making that, and then we just couldn't give them a go here.
Yeah.
But man, they are really well made. They're all just spot on.
Yep. Yep. Kind of that old school craft beer where they're just nailing styles, really clean beers.
I mean, I spent a lot of time. I'll be honest. I don't think I tried I tried one beer that I'd never tried before at Great Taste. It was 95 degrees, and I was like, I'm just gonna try to find some lagers, and I drank some Kolsch's. Drank Pieces Kolsch, which was great, and then I was at that Summit tent getting the extra pale ale, which was
that's a great beer.
Oh,
that
so
extra
good.
pale,
is
awesome. For me, I think I talked about the weed beer from Sweetwater last week, which is
you poured me some when I stopped in.
Yeah, I mean we're out of it now, but I was pouring it for everyone because it was so ridiculous. Since then, the latest Luponic Distortion has been awesome.
I haven't tried it yet.
Yeah, it's really good. I mean, just a really solid take on it, and again, I really like the Oktoberfest from Sierra Nevada as well. I thought that was good. I mean, nothing crazy that's kind of jumped out at me as of late. I'm trying to think if there was something that I had in you know what I had? In Amsterdam at a fest, I had a 1% IPA. I think it was a New England IPA, 1%. It was remarkably good. It was one of the best beers at the fest. It was essentially non-alcoholic.
Was Jerry there from Unani? He posted a bottle of a 1% beer. I thought he was in England though.
He wasn't there. I met up with him in Copenhagen for a night just because he happened to be there. And then he was ending his vacation in London.
I wonder if it was the same beer. So 1%.
It was it was a Dutch beer.
It had body.
That's the thing. It had body. You would have never guessed it was a 1% beer. I don't think you would have thought it was a 6% beer, but you would have thought it was a beer, and it was really good. But and now I'm thinking about it. I think I talked about this on the air already, but. I went to one of the local bars there in Amsterdam, and there's a famous bar that only serves Dutch beer, and they had it there. And I was looking, I was like, oh, what are we going to get? It's like, oh, man, that 1% beer, I love it. And then first time ever, I kind of did what everyone's like, oh, man, I wish beer didn't have any alcohol in it because I just like the taste. I've kind of said that. And
I don't think I have. But
go
ahead.
Yeah, it was $6, and I was like, it's 1%. Maybe I'll get something a little stronger.
I'm on vacation. I need something a little stronger.
Yeah. So I did it. I didn't get the 1% beer that I knew I loved.
It's like decaf coffee,
Right.
Yeah.
So, that was a really interesting.
Is it popular
beer.
over there? People are.
It was hard for me to get a read on it. I don't think craft beer is overly popular in general in Holland. And I was at a beer fest and a very kind of niche beer bar. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know how many just like regular accounts this stuff was at. But I think they like their Jenever more than they like their craft beer, and at least in Amsterdam, because that stuff's
there's a lot of great Belgian beer bars in Amsterdam.
Yep.
They like their Belgian beer.
Yeah, they like Belgian beer for sure, and they like kind of old school Belgian beer. I mean, they like the kind of the classic blonde Strongs and Trappists and stuff like that. I did see in Copenhagen a bunch of Westmalle kegs. And I was like, oh, man, Westmalle draft, this is amazing. And then I saw it. I was like, I've never seen it. And then I went to another bar, and I saw it again. One was a double, one was a triple. And I was like, this is amazing. And then I came back. So I, got it several times because I'm like, I'm never going to get this again. I had trouble finding this in Belgium. Come back to Chicago, and it was like, offered to me. I was like, you got to be kidding me. I wasted.
This is the second time that's been. They actually did release Westmalle and draft about, maybe 15 years ago, and it wasn't good. I mean, they didn't have it down, and it kind of bombed, and then it vanished for 15 years.
Right.
Belgians had a lot of trouble kegging 15 years ago, because they just weren't used to it. It wasn't a kegging. There were a lot of those breweries didn't keg until Belgian beer took off in the U.S., and they realized that we're a draft market, and they better start sending some kegs over. And some of those kegs did not come over well carbonated, or they were either over carbonated or flat, and
I think
you know more than I do, Mike.
Yeah, I think they had very primitive kegging lines, and I think the sanitation and everything like that was not there. They had a lot to figure out, and it wasn't really. They weren't doing it for their own market at all. I mean, even now, draft beer is not as prevalent in Belgium as here. They like bottled beer.
Yes.
And a lot of those styles just take so well to a bottle conditioning and, a high carbonation level that's hard to achieve on draft, and I can't imagine having an Orval on draft. That's,
No.
We have this idea in America that everything's better in keg, man. It's even better on a Firkin, It's like, no, it's not always.
A few breweries, though, like Het Anchor now is keg conditioning their draft. And it's coming fairly soon, a keg-conditioned real Duvel draft.
Oh.
They had it at the brewery. I had it there.
Yeah. Was it good?
It's coming.
It was so we had it next to a bottle. We enjoyed the bottle more because the carbonation had to be brought down because it's under such immense pressure and they even at the brewery had a special draft system set up just to handle the amount of pressure for this thing. At least that's what the people at the brewery said, because I had never seen it on draft ever.
Yeah, it probably had a restrictor on it.
Yeah, you definitely did a flow control.
I think it was. Yeah, I think there was a bunch of stuff going on with it, and more than just like a flow control or something like that. At least that's what they led me to believe. And I wish Steve Masney was here, because there were a bunch of brewers, and he just having a shifty, and he just bull in a china shop, walk right over them and ask them what atmospheres of carbonation they're kegging at and stuff like that, and he would remember all that stuff, but I don't remember any of it.
But but Unibrew has successfully done this with Fin de Monde, which, as far as the amount of carbonation and everything, is very similar to Duvel.
Yeah.
And it took them 3 years of trial and error to figure it out, but they put it in a warm room. They let it, they put it into the keg flat and let it carbonate in the keg. And I've been pouring it since they did it, and I have not returned one keg. I've never had trouble pouring any of it, and it's delicious.
Wow, well, that's great.
Because I feel like that's what they were doing 15 years ago. They were all like, "Oh, you need draft for America. We'll just, that's how they carbonated their beer. They conditioned it. They're like, oh, we just do it in a keg." But like I said, some of them were coming. It's not that simple. No, it's not that simple.
No. How do you think it's going to do? You think Duvel's going to do? Do you think anyone's going to care on draft? I think it might be 5 years too late.
It
maybe.
Might be a little bit too late. It's a world classic beer.
Yeah.
And if they pull it off and they get it to pour absolutely perfectly, they really distribute the proper glassware, they do some training with it, it could be a hit. I mean, a lot of people, there's a lot of younger drinkers that don't know it like we do.
Mm-hmm. And if they could get into the ritual of it and kind of make it almost like a Guinness thing, maybe it could take off that way.
I mean, we'll see. The market is very different now.
Okay, I've got to stall for 1 minute before we go to a break, but after that, I think what we'll do is, we'll go now. I can stall this way. So what we're going to do now is something where we listen to some other stuff about other shows. I'm trying to stall here. No, we're going to listen to some other of the shows that they have here on Lumpen, some other of the great programming. And after that, we'll come back with more of the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. Welcome back to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I'm your host, Chris Quinn, and I am joined by Michael Roper and Pat Berger. At this point, we'll see if Brian Kirby makes it or not. I don't know. He might be tailgating on Lakeshore Drive at this point. We'll see what he's doing.
Never know.
Yeah.
He's dropping off a late keg over at Kaiser.
Maybe he decided to go to the game.
Yeah, maybe just like, you know what? If you can't beat him, join him. So GABF is not too far away. And there was an announcement, the submissions for the medals that they give out have I think I don't know if the actual beers have been sent yet, but they've maybe got the submissions for them, and or the whatever you want to call it. People have applied to have their beers judged, and not surprisingly, the brand new categories are the most popular ever, and that is the Haze Bros, the hazy Haze Bombs, juicy beers are the most entered category ever in the history of GABF. There are 414 different hazy IPA entries for the event next month, and another 292 juicy or hazy pale ales or double IPAs were also submitted. So there is quote a haze craze. That's what the article says.
It rhymes. It must be true.
Yeah. It's the first time in over a decade that American style India Pale Ale was not the top entered beer style. And that's year one of this being. So there you are. It's surpassed IPA.
Yeah.
Juicy, hazy.
It's interesting from a judging standpoint, as a judge, because, I don't think the benchmarks of this style have really been set yet as far as, like, I don't know, Chris, would you, like, have a commercial example that you would say, this is the pinnacle and we judge everything by it? And I don't,
Treehouse, maybe something from Treehouse for the juicy,
right? Yeah,
I'm not really the person to ask, because to me,
and unless you've
people are like, this isn't hazy or this isn't juicy. This is a New England style, and like I would kind of laugh too, but they're serious, and they're people who drink these things all the time. So to them, they'll drink it like, oh, that's hazy. No, that one's juicy, and to me, they kind of all taste like just like really tropical and yeasty to me. But
yeah, and I mean, do you deduct points for the ones
for clarity?
Yeah, deduct points for clarity. I guess so.
Yeah, I guess you do.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
So upside down world we're living in, Chris.
I know. Yeah. Your beer flocculated. I'm gonna have to knock you a couple for that.
Yeah.
I guess you would for a hef though, right? For a Hefeweizen,
maybe you would. You would
crystal clear.
If it's crystal, you would assume the yeast bed just wasn't riled up correctly. A lot of that has to do with the pour.
That's true.
I've certainly judged pretty clear Hefeweizens, knowing that they're just pouring off the top of the bottle. I don't know.
Yeah. So do you think in 5 years that will still be the number one? Do you think in a decade it'll still be the number one. You're shaking your head no, Mr. Roper.
No, I don't think so. I mean, the fact that there's so many of them so quickly, to me, screams fad. It just does not. I don't think that this is, an important new style that we really need to mine for its possibilities.
A lot of people
disagree with me.
Disagree with you. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't. It's something that just doesn't hit me very in the right spot. The flavor profiles, many of the things that people ascribe to them are realized in other styles. It's just that this one happens to be hazy. I don't, and I don't know that appearance of a beer in the glass is one of my top judgment, criteria.
Which would maybe have you not mind that it's hazy in that sense, because if typically you would look at it and be like, ooh, something's wrong, or this brewery doesn't know what they're doing.
I think the word hazy is being misused because these beers are not hazy. I mean, they are. Some of them are, but a lot of IPAs are. I mean, haze in an IPA is not new.
Yeah.
When you dry hop something, a lot of times you have a hazy beer.
Mm-hmm.
We used to. These are not hazy. These are. You cannot see through them.
Yeah.
For me, a hazy beer light shines through a hazy beer.
Some of them are like milkshakes.
Yeah, these are.
Well, that's a whole nother style. I mean, now I'm not even kidding. I wouldn't be surprised if in a couple of years there's a milkshake IPA category, because that's ones where they add lactose and sometimes even vanilla to them, and they make these milkshake IPAs.
Those have got to go away, right? Those aren't going to be.
Those
here.
Can't be.
They're not going to make it into.
They're too much for me. But I've heard there are very good examples. So I heard Hop Butcher just put one out that's amazing.
I had one recently that to me just tasted like an IPA.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it really. I didn't get the milkshake aspect of it besides the incredible haze on it. But like I said, not haze. It was just like milk.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've been wrong about everything else. I'll be wrong about this, but I'm sure it'll be the number one category in 3 years. Who knows?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. So, but who is the thing is, I'm sure everybody wants to get the gold year one for this thing. They want it. It's going to be.
It should be a good marketing tool.
It should be a very good marketing tool.
There will be lines.
Will anyone from a famous producer of this style win it, do you think? My guess is no. It won't be a Trillium or a Treehouse or a Hill Farm or a Lawson's.
So much of it is going to depend on how it holds up.
Yeah.
I mean, it's my understanding these beers don't last long.
No.
And I'm pretty sure you got to send those beers weeks in advance.
Oh, I think you have to send it. Yeah, good to know.
I mean, and I did see a Facebook thread with brewers concerned that their beer was going to drop clear while it was waiting to be judged, which, never heard that from brewers before.
Oh, no.
But that's a real concern, I guess. And, maybe they'll be deducted for that. I'm glad I'm not a judge. I'm sure the people who entered their beers are glad I'm not a judge either. But, I wouldn't know exactly how to, I go into judging with such confidence of knowing what that particular beer is supposed to taste like. And I mean, I guess all I know about these beers is it's supposed to taste like orange juice and it's supposed to look like orange juice. Other than that, I mean, I don't know.
Juicy hazy.
Yeah.
So, I mean, are we done with this topic? Is there anything else you guys want to talk about?
Yeah. No,
Juicy hazy. I had to bring it up with the two of you.
It's a banned subject on my podcast.
That way, right? But that way, I can get hate emails about how we just need to stop bashing.
I know you do have a couple, old men shaking their fists at clouds over here, and it's probably going to be a lot of that today.
Yeah, that's true. Let's talk about this. Did you see this documentary? the beer Jesus.
I saw it when you sent it to me.
Yeah, I saw it too, and just recently. And so here's the deal. There is Greg Cook of Stone Brewing is going to be the focus of a new documentary called The Beer Jesus of American Beer, I believe is the full name. Let me look at it real quick. The Beer Jesus of America. Yeah, The Beer Jesus of American Beer would be a little redundant,
Yes.
but yeah, The Beer Jesus of America. And it's
a humble title.
The humble title, and
Yeah.
the poster is him standing on top of a stack of pallets, and then there's a barrel, and he's standing on top of it. His arms kind of outstretched on either side of him, a halo around his head, long Jesus-like hair pointed out to a mass of people, disciples perhaps, in front of a brewery that looks a lot like a former church or something like that.
Okay.
So really playing up the imagery. First of all, I was shocked that Greg Cook would allow himself to be labeled as the beer Jesus. I think that says something personally. I don't know. I don't think I would ever let anyone label me the beer Jesus.
No, it's a pretty heady title.
Yeah, it is. I mean, he has a beard and long hair now. He's let himself kind of...
He looks the part.
He does definitely look
yeah.
the part. He does look like a beer Jesus,
And
for
it's
sure.
not the first time I've heard him called that. I mean, people have been calling him that for quite a few years.
Yes, right. But a movie where you're like, that's
Yes.
your nickname.
But you said he has nothing to do with the movie besides cooperating with the...
Yeah, so it's
Director?
the movie is about the opening of Stone's brewery in Berlin, Germany.
Mm-hmm.
And it, I guess, follows that and him trying to bring American craft beer to Germany, which I think is, probably one of a holdout in terms of giant beer countries that, haven't adopted, the Haze Craze Hop Bomb pastry stouts that the three of us all love. So
I had one in Italy,
yeah.
by the way, last month. I didn't know
A
it was-
Nipa?
Yeah.
How was it? You had a haze bomb?
Yes.
Juicy?
Yes.
Whale?
Yes.
How was it? Was it good?
No.
Okay.
I mean, it was, I don't like the style, so I can't say whether it was a good example of it or not. I didn't realize, it just said IPA, so I didn't realize, but it came, and I don't know, unless they didn't purposely make it look like milk, but it did,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, boy. He never shies away from a marketing opportunity.
Right.
I don't dislike Greg. He's been on the show before, and he's a nice guy, but he's got a little bit of like that BrewDog style in him, where it seems like there's definitely some gimmicky things going on, and it's hard for me to believe that this is completely independent, and it's not. It's just so perfectly timed, and I don't know. I mean,
Well, I was in Berlin for the Stone Brewery opening.
when was it?
It's about 2 years ago now.
Yeah.
Yeah. I happened to be in Europe anyway, and I had an invite. So there was a 17-euro flight from Pisa to Berlin.
Nice.
So why not?
Yeah.
And I spent a whole week in Berlin surrounding this event, and it was, there was a little bit of spectacle to it.
As there should be for a big opening, right?
And the brewery, I mean, it's cool. It's a really cool building. It's 1901 old gas house building. It's in a kind of a weird area of Berlin where there's not a lot going on. The mayor was there. There was a lot of other big politicians, and people were making a real big deal about it. He did bring some of San Diego into the brewery as far as the interior design
Aesthetic,
and
okay.
stuff.
Some SoCal vibes.
Yeah, and but there was great food, and then on the outside of it, it has that sort of almost like beer amusement park that he has at his brewery in San Diego. There's a waterfall, and there's all this kind of stuff, and there was lots of pontificating, and then he gets up, and it is sort of this build up to having the beer Jesus come up, and I enjoyed it. I did go to some bars in Berlin that, because of this happening, they tapped Stone beer for the first time. And there actually there's a little bit of a nascent craft beer scene in Berlin.
Makes sense.
I went to a couple
city. Yeah.
I went to a couple little breweries. But I have to say that the average German beer drinker will drink a Stone beer as a curiosity, a novelty, and then they're going to go back to their rather delicious lagers that they've been drinking for centuries. I don't know that people are crying out for the kind of beers that he's brewing there. I think the main advantage of him having a brewery in Berlin is to produce beer for the whole European market there. I'm not certain that actually Berlin was the smartest place to do it, but in some ways it's the coolest place to do it.
Yeah.
Because Berlin right now is a really cool city. And I think that he stumbled upon this really unique building in a unique area, and I don't think he could say no. And I don't blame him. I mean, it's really cool.
Yeah. And if it does take off, he'd be the first and in a great position to kind of, put hoppy U.S.-style beers into Germany as well. It does sound like, Germany's definitely a holdout. When I talk to people from Germany who are craft beer enthusiasts, it's strictly bottle shops getting stuff from around Europe and the United States, and pretty few and far between these bottle shops. They're pretty niche. I'm interested to see. I mean, you haven't heard. I guess what would you hear a ton about it here in the United States?
I think it's just doing okay from what I hear.
Yeah.
I just don't know. I actually think that the brewery site is doing well as an event space, and I hear more people talking about that than talking about the beer itself. And I also think that
not ideal
that he has to compete with a little bit of there's a scene of little cool neighborhood nano breweries in Germany, and I think that if you were a German and were interested in different, more interesting craft beers, you might drink those instead of drinking Stone.
Right. Yeah. Well, they're local and they're German, and I'm sure there's some pride in your local beer there, and kind of makes sense to me. Yeah, I remember. I mean, they've been talking about this project for a really long time now. I was just more curious that this movie called The Beer Jesus, and I guess they're painting it as a crusade against the Reinheitsgebot, and really that was one of the main reasons is to which obviously is just marketing, but it's interesting.
I'm going to watch it.
Me too.
Because it's a pretty interesting story, him trying to break in through Germany, which, when I heard that, I was like, that's nuts, man. Like, why wouldn't you just set up in Denmark or Holland or or Italy or one of these countries that's actually interested in American craft beer.
Yeah, I'm sure even parts of France would be more.
And that's what I asked him when I met him. I was like, "Hey, man, definitely Europe is pining for this stuff, but why on earth did you pick Germany?" And he was like, "Well, I think there's a lack of poppy beer there." And I'm like, "Yeah, but like, do you see anyone asking for it? Like, is there a demand for the supply?" And he was like, "Well, I guess I'll find out." So fair enough. In my mind, I was like, "Well, it's going to take one arrogant." I don't know if I can say it. Well, it's the name of his beer.
Yeah,
it's going to take an arrogant bastard to sell hobby beer to the Germans, and he is certainly all of that.
Yeah,
I'm wondering, because the area of Berlin that it's in is not that developed, and this old gasworks is kind of an interesting building. It was built in 1901, and there's a lot of vacant land around it. It kind of looks like something like during World War II bombing, they aimed for it, and they destroyed everything else around it except it. But I wonder if there were incentives for him to do this.
Yeah,
that maybe made it more appealing. And maybe that'll be addressed in the movie.
Yeah, it's true. It is also cool to see U.S. beer just kind of take off all over the world. I mean, I was in Denmark, which I think is probably the home to the first international U.S. style hoppy, explosion, which is Mikkeller. And have either of you guys been to Denmark?
I have not.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Have you been there recently, Michael?
I was there a couple years ago.
He owns that city.
Yep. Oh yeah, definitely.
He owns that city. I had no idea how pervasive Mikkeller was with craft beer. He has many bars. He has bars of different themes. He has the War Pigs. He has a whole several ramen shops. He has coffee shops. He has a general store. He has a I think I said a coffee shop. Just like everything that is like kind of culturally hip, he is all over.
I think he's in Chicago today.
Oh, is he?
As a matter of fact, I think he's at the Hop Leaf right now.
That makes sense.
How many scarf stores does he have?
There, he probably has a chain
of scarf
stores. Yeah.
Cool. I'm going.
Yeah. Isn't that more of an Italian thing? All those.
Every time I've seen him, he's wearing like more than one scarf.
Yeah.
He likes scarves.
And then now he's got a place in the Mets ballpark. There's a brew pub there.
Really?
Yeah, which his twin brother ripped on him for being like, "You don't own that. You just license it. You're never there." Why are you saying it's McKay? Which is kind of funny that his brother
what
ripped
on earth
on him.
do any of them own? I mean,
I don't know.
I guess ramen shops and coffee shops, but
yeah, that was interesting to me. But it is. I digress. It is cool to see. I'm ready whenever. To see U.S. beer kind of going all over the place. Why don't we take a musical break, a musical interlude for 5 or 10 minutes or so, talking beer with Michael Roper of the Hop Leaf and Pat Berger of Beer Opinions, and
yes,
yeah, and we'll come back and talk a little bit more when we get back.
I have a real job too.
Yeah.
Jägermeister war nicht gern allein, drum lud sich zum Weihnachtsfest 9 Jägermeister ein. Zehn kleine Jägermeister rauchten einen Joint, den einen hat es umgehauen.
Welcome back to the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. I am your host, Chris Quinn, and I am joined by Michael Roper and Pat Berger. And there's something I want to talk to you guys about. Do you know that for the first time in, a long time, maybe, close to 100 years, I think. If a person walks into a bar and the bartender says, "What'll it be?" chances are it's not a beer. Beer is now, drinkers choose beer 49.7% of the time, down from 61% in the mid 90s when it was at its height. And that with young people, 27 and younger, well, 21 to 27, it's just 43% of the time. And they were at 65, so it's been an even kind of more steep decline. There's been people talking about it a lot, and we've even made fun of Anheuser-Busch talking about it a little bit in their high-end video. I don't know if you remember that when they were talking about wine and spirits coming after us, and why are you worrying about big corporate beer? The real enemy is wine and spirits and stuff like that. So, the numbers it's staring people in the face now. I was just curious what you guys maybe thought about the article or just thought about the trend in general, and how you guys have seen it. I think there's probably a lot to play with you guys as well, with the beer scene maybe also affecting that. But I just wanted to kind of throw it out there. I don't know. Thoughts, Mr. Berger?
The numbers don't lie. This is real. And, I've certainly experienced it and seen it happen at my two places. And, we sell a lot of vodka. It's, the reasons for it, I think maybe are a combination of like carbs and gluten, are like bad things for you according to a lot of people. And beer does help you gain some weight. I'm living proof of that. And if you want to go on one of these fad diets, pretty much all of them, the first thing you have to do is cut out beer, and maybe you can have some red wine and vodka sodas. I think that has a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
But beer's not going anywhere. Just because it is, it's still 49-point-something% of the time people are ordering it, and they always will.
10% down. No.
10% sounds a lot. Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's one of the. For us, Michael and I are bar owners. We can roll with all of that as long as people are drinking. I don't know, just But if I was big beer, I'd be very worried. Because they are feeling the pinch of this a lot more than small producers. I think a lot of small producers are still up. I think craft beer in general is not down. It's maybe, I don't know, you tell me.
Flattening, but
it's still up, I think.
Yep.
So this is all coming down on the big guys.
Yep.
And, so I don't know. That's why I haven't really thought about it much. Doesn't really affect me that much.
Doesn't affect you on a daily basis, really?
No, I don't sell a lot of the big guys beer, and
What about a place called the Hop Leaf?
I definitely see it, but I think that there's a positive way to look at it. Is I think that craft beer made a lot of people appreciate the finer things in life, and the only finer thing in life is not beer. I think that craft beer was it opened the door to wine. It opened the door to good whiskey. It opened the door to cider. It opened the door to a lot of things. So I actually think that when people started drinking beer that actually had complex flavors and paired with food, it created a taste for other great things. And so, maybe you could say that, beer created a monster, and the monster is eating a little bit of itself. But I don't know that that's a bad thing. I think that the fact that people are liking better things, they eat better bread, they like better cheese, they want to know where their meat comes from, and all those kind of things, it's a good thing. But I definitely think that, I mean, I actually have been seeing a rather dramatic increase in wine sales. You know, Hop Life has always, you know, we've really had a conscientiously wonderful wine program, and it's finally paying off. And so we're selling more wine. Spirits are, you know, we've never been a big spirits place. Spirits are neither going up or down for me. They're steady. But wine sales are really up when my beer sales are down.
Yeah.
And I think my beer sales are more down because of the, you know, the taproom phenomena that we've talked about before. But I think that people are drinking other things. I see another trend is that there are a lot of younger people, even ones that come to my bar, who don't drink. More than I've ever remember. A lot of people are...
Pat, you've talked about this in the past.
I have, yeah.
You know, people are drinking. They're interested in these sort of craft sodas and things like that. That I didn't really see that coming, but
So they go to your bar
and
as part of a group or as part of a couple, like two people, one of them doesn't drink?
a couple or a group. You know, they want to. You know, they're part of a social group. They want to still be there, but for whatever reason, for health reasons or other kinds of philosophical reasons, they decide, I don't drink alcoholic beverages. And but they still want tavern culture in a way because of the social life that goes on there. So, you know, those people do cut in to my beer sales, my wine sales. It's just another facet. There's, you know, it's, you know, when I started working in bars in the early 70s, you know, there was not a broad demographic of, you know, like, or actually there was a broad demographic that came into bars, and it wasn't split up into all these subcategories. Now, there's so many different kinds of people that have made very different choices of what they're going to drink, how much they're going to drink, are they going to drink at all? And it's kind of interesting. I don't really see it as a threat, but I watch it with interest. And, you know, what you do is you tweak what you offer.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it's interesting, like just the overall drinking trends that are changing. So people are drinking less overall.
Yep.
Women are drinking more per capita than they have been in the past, but they prefer wine and cocktails. So, you know, just from a beer perspective, and young people especially are drinking less. And I think you were the first person, Pat, who told me that. They're like, yeah, kids don't think drinking's cool. They think it's uncool, or a lot of them do, or they're just not into it. Or
Yeah, I mean, you know, well, kids are smarter than we were back then. You know, I hate to say it, but yeah, they're going, why, you know, why does, you know, this older generation pummel themselves with alcohol, and I don't want to do that, you know, and you know, I don't. It's a trend. I think it is the way some things are going, but
I think indulgence in that way will.
Yeah,
people. There's always going to be indulgence. I think people are indulging in other ways now, perhaps.
Are you like speaking of marijuana and stuff, or
no? I just think maybe in maybe like luxury items, and I think they're just kind of indulging in experiences, in stuff like that. In this Wall Street Journal article, something that I'd heard and anecdotally and just kind of come across, but again seeing it in black and white, you know, it came up again and again about very health conscious, carbs. You know, I'll just have a vodka water, or vodka soda rather, and then I'm hydrating at the same time. And I mean, you could have a glass of water.
I tried the vodka soda thing. You know, I was like going to try to go on a diet. And
what's the vodka soda thing?
Well, it's like I was trying to cut out some carbs. You know, I lasted like 6 hours.
Right.
It's like I don't like vodka soda. That's what I found out.
I think vodka soda is for people who just want an ethanol injection.
Yeah,
that's
it's
all,
the
that's
most
what
uninteresting
it's just-
thing to drink ever.
They want to drink in front of them. They're in a bar. They really don't like alcohol that much. And
Yeah.
Well, they like alcohol. They don't like
Well, yeah, they like the
taste.
They
They don't like the
taste.
experience of drinking it. They want to be drunk.
Yeah, I decided losing a few pounds was not worth it.
But I'm sure Pat probably has noticed, over the years, I don't see people getting wasted in my bar. We always.
I do.
I don't. Well, I don't know. It's not as much as it used to be.
No, that's true. That's true.
People seem to know when to say, that's it. I'm calling it a night, and it might be. It could be economic. Younger people are not making as much as their parents did, and maybe never will, and they're paying a lot more in rent. And if they made the mistake of taking out student loans, they've got a lot of financial issues. And, that $6 pint of beer, you're going to really enjoy it. And you might have another one. But you're probably not going to have 6 or 7 of them,
Yeah.
Because if you do that and you want to go to some music festival in Portland in the fall, maybe I won't have enough money left over to go to that music festival I want to go to.
Right, and I guess you get more bang for the buck with spirits that way.
Yeah, the lack of kids drinking has nothing to do with these numbers, by the way. These numbers are about drinkers, right?
Yep. Yes.
They're saying drinkers are not choosing beer.
That's true.
Well, they're saying the whole category is down, but Michael, I think, is saying that they're choosing one type of alcohol over another because it's maybe you get more bang for the buck. If you think about it, if you buy a $35 bottle of whiskey, that packs a lot of punch. That's more than 3 6-packs, I'd say.
But these numbers, I think, like Michael's first point, I think was very good about
but not his other points.
No, but well, we're talking about two different things. I think non-drinkers aren't included in these numbers. This is percentages, right? Not overall numbers.
Yeah.
So
But
it's
I think
percentages
both,
of people drinking, or percentages of say my
Right.
product mix that's going out the door, kind of a thing. And you're right. Like the whole micro distilling thing is an absolute offshoot of micro brewing.
Totally.
It is completely to the point where there's even many craft brewers who are now distilling.
And the other thing is that we have to understand that in every single category of alcoholic beverages, the quality of products that are available to us is much, much better than it ever was before. There's better wine available at more reasonable prices than there ever was before. There's fantastic whiskey. There's interesting, innovative cocktails. Think of the ciders that were available to us 20 years ago compared to now. All these categories are peaking out in their, the quality quotient. And so as these things get better, they're definitely more appealing. And it's interesting to me that categories like wine are learning from craft beer. They're packaging wine in cans now. Draft wine, I'm killing it with draft wine.
Yeah.
I sell 10 to 12 sixtels a week of wine.
Wow.
Now, if you take that and translate it into bottles or 4-ounce servings, I'm a wine bar all of a sudden.
Yeah.
And we sell wine by the bottle too. So, the thing is that I don't think that this draft wine thing would have happened if it wasn't for beer. Beer,
for sure.
I think the beer bars and beer culture said the wine people said, we got to get in on that. How do we get into those places? How do we sell our wine? And it's not junky wine. I'm selling Côte de Rhône. I'm selling an Austrian Gruner Veltliner on tap. And so, it's following trends set by the craft beer business. And just like craft beer, it's appealing to a big audience.
Yeah, that's awesome. Also for wine, and even the labels are starting to look more like beer labels. If you look at some of the natural wines, they're all it looks like a comic book,
right?
So it's interesting here. For we haven't had a severe hot take yet on the show, so I think it's my duty to have at least one. What do you think about the idea of are people more concerned about their health because of social media and how they look, and are worried about putting on calories now because of social media, and that might be adversely affecting beer? They got to have the Instagram bod, and that. I mean, I'm telling you, every quote in this article from a young person was about calories and carbs.
Yeah.
And, is it that being 5 pounds overweight is that much more worrisome to kids these days, or young folks these days?
I think everyone's always been concerned about their weight. I don't think that's a new thing. I think maybe, I don't know. I haven't thought about this at all, so I have no real coherent answer. But
there's a hot take.
People are much. Yeah, you're right. People are much more sedentary, maybe, and are realizing that if they don't control their diet, and they're maybe back when we were a little more active and not just staring at our phones all the time, or I don't know. I'm making this up, Chris, as I go along, but. I think they have to watch their calorie intake more than they used to because they're not burning any calories. Maybe I don't know. I don't know.
I'll tell you one thing.
You think it's that perfect Instagram photo?
I think everyone wants to look good in their selfie.
That could be. Yeah.
I think people want to look good in their selfie, so they're thinking about it. And
people are certainly taking a lot more pictures of themselves than they ever did,
and looking at other people and how they look.
Right.
And,
that could be. Yeah,
and just looking. I mean, people are on their phones and they're on Instagram. I mean, that's where people are. They're just Instagram, flipping through pictures of other people, doing cool things, looking cool, looking good.
I mean, we have talked about how that has affected, I think, the bar industry as a whole because, you really have to supply that Instagrammable experience.
Well, you have nailed that.
Well, yeah.
But look at how the
you have to.
Look at how health consciousness and everything has affected the soda industry. I mean, it's getting killed by all these flavored waters and 0-calorie things, mineral waters with vitamins in them and everything.
Nobody drinks soda.
No, I know.
I mean, nobody in the city anyway. I mean,
do you ever give your kid a soda? I never do.
No.
When I was their age,
we had it.
Our fridge was filled with it. Yeah,
exactly. 3 years ago. Yeah. I mean, this change is so sudden, and you got to think that is bleeding into the beer and spirits world. Because they the big non-alcoholic beverage companies like Pepsi and Coke are marketing all of this low calorie, no carb, no sugar, all this kind of stuff, and it's inevitable that this is going to bleed in to the beer world. People who are like, oh, I don't drink Coca-Cola anymore. I don't drink that because of all those reasons. Well, then they go into a bar and those same things are on their mind when they order a beer.
Right. Imagine this is a Coke, but more caloric and more carbs.
I mean, it's also, carbs are suddenly the enemy. They weren't always. There was a time when everyone just thought it was fatty foods that got you fat. And so then, everything was fat-free, and it turned out that was terrible because they were just pumping everything with carbs. And, so a lot of it has, these scientific studies come out and say this is what's bad for you currently. It's carbs and gluten. I'm still trying to figure out what gluten is, but apparently it's not good for you. But I'm sure in a couple of years it'll come out that that's all BS, or maybe it already has come out.
It already, I mean,
right?
We don't have nearly as many people coming in and asking, do you have gluten-free bread for your sandwiches or all this that kind of peaked about 4 years ago.
I think the person who put out the original study even
he changed his
kind
mind.
of debunked it a little bit and said, yes, it's an issue in a sliver of the people that I originally thought it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the thing
But it's stuck. It's stuck
It's
in
still
people's
out there.
minds.
but it's
Yeah.
still out there. But I think the larger issue is the great enemy of carbs, and beer, is very carbohydrate laden. Good beer is. I mean, obviously, like you have your
Mick Ultra.
Mick Ultra.
Even those they're low carb for a beer.
Yeah.
They're not low carb for a vodka soda,
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Or a white wine.
A white wine. Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's funny. I mean, that's what those places are going after now, because the latest ad I saw for Mick Ultra was somebody, two women sit at a bar. One orders a Mick Ultra, one orders a white wine, and the white wine crushes in the bar top because it's so laden with carbs compared to the Mick Ultra. But just funny. I love those Mick Ultra commercials. I have to admit, they make me laugh, where it's like people literally, like, these people are professional athletes in these videos. They're rock climbing, they're doing Ironman triathlons, and then they're having some Mick Ultra afterwards. The idea that beer is any better for you.
It's like Gatorade, man. You want that during your workout.
Exactly. Just IV it, man.
Yeah.
I think that the diet beer is one of the biggest successful scams in beer. I think that is such a scam. It's like half the alcohol, therefore half the carbs.
Well,
cost the same amount of money. Kind of to your point, Michael, about a beer is still going to be $6. Vodka soda might be $9, but
Well, I remember having this conversation with a woman years ago where she was drinking a light beer, and I was like, the only difference between that light beer and a regular beer is like 3 potato chips. She's like, I know, 3 potato chips. Yeah, exactly. I was like, oh, yeah, I guess.
What about these?
That matters to people.
There's these new categories, though, that the hard sodas. I mean, nobody's offered them to me to sell at the bar, but I'm seeing advertising for them.
Yeah, those are like super full of sugar and horrible things, I think. But they go.
There's a big push for them. I mean,
Yeah.
I see it on all the.
I'm seeing a bigger push for the alcoholic seltzer waters.
Yeah,
and
yeah,
those,
absolutely.
Those,
a push from who?
From I don't know, the makers. Yeah,
the makers,
powers that
right?
be, yeah.
So, I mean, this is kind of going into one of the other things I wanted to talk about, which was, did you guys even hear about this Two Hats Brewing, which is a Miller spinoff thing?
Not until you sent me the email. No, I didn't.
So I heard about it coming down to this show one day. I mentioned it on the air. I was like, did anyone see this heard of Two Hats Brewing? And somebody else who had also come down on 9094 saw it. And it was, we were just shocked by it. Lo and behold, 2 weeks later, a couple cases had been dropped off at the CoPro. And we tried it on the air, and it was horrific. It tasted like, we said, like bad LaCroix. It was labeled as beer. It wasn't seltzer. It was horrible. One was a pineapple and one was a lime, and they tasted like seltzers, and but just like minutely beer-like, perhaps. They were foul, and they're already now. It came out, 6 months after the launch. They've ceased production. And to me,
Miller was making
Miller's making it, and they were going after young drinkers, young millennials, to try to be a cheap, low-cal beer, and at least that iteration of it failed. I mean, 6 months is not a long time.
Huh.
I mean, that means people weren't even bringing it in to begin. But I don't
someone
know.
lost their job on that one.
Oh yeah, but I was curious. Like, so this seltzer, I hear about it. I don't know anyone who drinks it, and I don't certainly see any sales reps. I see it at Jewel's. I see it at supermarkets rather.
I know people drink it.
I saw someone buy it once. Someone saw it in one of those like bin displays right at checkout and being like, oh, let's try it. Alcohol seltzer.
Yeah.
Again, especially with like people who are like home mixologists, and that's the cool thing right now. Like you won't just take a seltzer and dump some vodka into it. I don't get that.
But there's other flavors. You know,
yeah.
Like,
and it's
take
a beach.
a flavored seltzer.
Something to take to the beach. I think if you're carb and gluten free, and you're going to a party or the beach, it's a lot easier, I guess, to take a 6-pack of that than a bottle of seltzer and a bottle of vodka and some fruit and a glass.
All right.
But I think it's doing well. I mean, I think that one is a success.
I was only made aware of it by the bus shelter in front of my building has ads for it, and it's like that. Otherwise, I would have never even heard of it.
Yeah, our Miller rep was like, this would kill in the beer garden. It would kill. And I'm like, I think it would. I'm still not buying it. Like, I'd be more apt to buy it if I thought it would be a flop. That's the last thing I want is a bunch of people drinking that in the beer garden.
Right.
It's a beer garden.
Right. No wine allowed.
It's right there in the name.
No seltzer.
It's allowed. We're just not.
You'll just be looked at. You'll be judged,
dude. In the summer, we're not a beer bar. We're a Tito's and soda bar.
Yeah, are you?
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah.
Huh. You're just a bar.
Yeah,
just a bar. So
there's a bar by my house named that. Just a bar.
Just a bar.
Yeah, on Addison.
I like that name.
Yeah.
So do you think this is going to continue with the decline of beer? Do you think it's going to hit craft beer, and craft beer will also kind of, because craft beer's been holding up beer overall for a while. I mean, the slide for big beer's been going on.
Yeah. I don't know. It's all cyclical, It could, and then it'll go back up. I mean, you just got to ride these things out, I think.
Yeah. Agreed.
I think that it always comes back to sort of, I think that, we talked about all those other new categories. Those things are going to come and go. People are always going to drink wine, they're always going to drink beer, and they're always going to drink spirits. And the percentage that prefer one or the other is going to go up and down over time. And I think that people who are introduced to good wine and like it often will be a likely customer for better beer. And people who like better beer are going to be likely customers for a good rye whiskey. Like all these things influence each other.
Right. I mean, people who are drinking craft are drinking for flavor, and like you said, those flavors exist elsewhere. Or interesting flavors.
I think 20 years ago, wine was where craft beer is now. And, things are, flipping. Wine didn't go anywhere.
Right.
You might say one of the things that maybe has hurt beer a little bit is that because of the craft beer movement, it's got a little bit more snooty, like people used to think wine was.
Big time.
It's intimidating to people. It used to be a comfortable, convivial beverage.
One of the best things about it was everyone was comfortable drinking it and saying, I don't like it, rather than I've certainly been, I know more about wine than probably the average bear, and there will be situations where, someone will give me a glass of wine, and depending on who that person is, I'll kind of look to them to be like, do I like it? You tell me. And, that was never the case with beer, but now I think it's getting that way.
Which is not to its advantage.
No, not at all.
And I think the wine business is actually, by putting wine in cans and stuff, is trying to go the other way. And, of course, like in Europe and like in France, people drink wine as an everyday thing that they don't think that much about. And people used to drink beer that way here, but now they got a little bit, it's a little bit precious. And I think that being precious hurts. It hurts beer a little bit.
Yep, hurts it and helps it. I think it's both. What do you? We had to get to it. This topic. We spent the entire last show talking about the latest bill in the Illinois House, and we don't have to rehash the whole thing. But one of the things that I thought was interesting that came up during the show was how maybe how retailers and even and especially actually on-premise retailers, bars, that is, played into the need for tap rooms to exist by having this kind of whirlwind tap handle environment. And I think both of you guys, having frequented your establishments for years, I think we're certainly not the worst offenders, but certainly weren't. I don't think you really could be people who were like, nope, we have our handles and we don't change them. I was curious what you guys, if you guys had any opinions about, this kind of rapid, we call it on the show, new. It's really affected how beer has grown. People used to put out seasonals and they'd have a new seasonal. Now it's just like rapid fire. You may see this beer again. You may never see it again. The point is that your people have never checked into it on Untapped before, and they're gonna buy it. And as a result of that, they're just constantly fighting for tap handles, and refighting and refighting and refighting. Once you get a beer on at Kaiser, in 2 weeks, you got to fight to get another beer on it at Kaiser again, rather than getting a handle and kind of moving on and checking back in and see how things are going. And the tap rooms are a result of them needing a place that they don't have to fight for handles. I don't know. I thought it was it just kind of came up organically, and I thought it was an interesting way to think of it.
Certainly some truth to it, but at the same time, the rotating handle thing was customer driven. It wasn't like my idea. There is no less loyal customer on this planet than the craft beer drinker. There are some that are proud to say that they never drink the same beer twice. I can't imagine that existence. But
I mean, I've had it is a synonym for I don't want it.
Yes.
I mean, that's great. I've had it.
Right.
Awesome beer. I've had it.
So,
okay, do you want one?
So we had to do that, right? We had to offer something new to a regular who comes in every day. They wanted that, and we gave it to them. So, I guess we shoulder some responsibility. At the same time, there are breweries that dug into that as well. And there wasn't probably enough emphasis put on that returning customer. But at the same time, that I don't remember that returning customer existing. Like it all went hand in hand.
When you say returning customer,
the guy that is loyal to this brand of beer.
I'm a Bud man. Yeah.
I don't ever remember them being in the craft beer scene or being a consumer of craft beer. There was never those guys. Me neither. I've become one. As evidenced by my last trip to Great Taste, only drinking beers I've had before, because there's a lot of bad beer out there. But, I mean, it is certainly the Achilles heel of the whole thing. I think the biggest.
What's the Achilles heel?
The lack of loyalty from the drinker. The always wanting something new.
And I think it's even a lack of loyalty at a brewery level. I think it's. If it's really, really hard to get a beer, they'll want to try it, but they're not going to keep drinking that beer till it's gone. Their loyalty is to trying the beer, I think, often. Often. Now, there are exceptions to every rule. I know you guys are out there saying you're full of it. That's not true. I drink this beer all the time. And we're just talking about general changes. I would imagine that 20 years ago, there was the Miller Lite guy, there was the Bud Light guy, there was the Coors guy, there was the import guy. And that's kind of who your beer
20 years ago, there was the Bell's Amber guy,
the
person that just ordered that. But
there weren't as many choices either.
Right. The other thing that is affecting the taproom explosion, though, is just the sheer number of breweries means that I can't carry even all the good ones. I can't give a line. I mean, I have lines in rotation just because I'm trying to throw a bone to all the people I actually like their beer. But even with 68 draft lines, I don't have enough draft lines to to throw business toward all of them all the time. And so they need to have a tap room because every bar is like that.
Yeah, if our lines didn't rotate, it would be even
worse.
It would be even worse for them. They would never get a keg in. They would, essentially have no reason to come and visit me, every week and show me what they've got that's new because, my handles would be permanent. So yes, I think the major reason tap rooms are.
I'm not trying to assign fault, by the way.
Right.
Saying,
no,
yeah.
But I think it still just comes down to there being too many breweries, and the competition for my tap handles is fierce, and the competition for your shelf space is fierce, and they need a non-competitive environment where they can just sell their product directly to the customer at way higher margins. I mean, the taproom thing is not a secret why they make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
I mean, they have to do it, and we're trying to, because we've been around for a long time. I do have so many lines that I set aside for my Belgian imports. I have so many lines for sort of what I call the legacy craft brewers like Sierra Nevada and people I've carried for a long time. And then I have regional, I have local. And after I get through all those, I have 8 or 10 lines that are in really heavy rotation, where every time I blow a keg, I put a different brewery on. And so it's, actually there aren't that many lines in play. And so the competition for those is really, really, intense. And there's a lot of breweries that we love their beer, but they're not on all the time. So, I have, I'll have a Weiner beer, and the Weiner goes off, and Maine Brewing Company comes on, and that goes off, and Pollyanna comes on, and that's the way it is now.
Yeah, we're the same.
And I would love, in a perfect world, all those breweries deserve more attention, but there's just too many breweries.
Yeah, or not enough bars, or not enough people drinking,
not enough people drinking.
All the same thing.
There's plenty of bars.
Yeah,
there's a lot
too
of
many
bars
too. I mean, it's not
too many restaurants.
Yeah, it's too many of everything. Sometimes and sometimes.
Not enough people drinking. That's the issue.
Yes, that's the issue. Everyone get out there and drink
beer.
more.
Come on, drink some beer. What's the big deal, man?
That's right.
Yeah. Now, do you think that some of these provisions in the this latest Illinois law are going to be kind of used aggressively? I don't want to say predatorily, but are they going to be taken advantage of to kind of leverage some of the advantages over off-premise retail spots that aren't taproom owned, like the ability to warehouse, the ability to have beer and cider bought through distribution, stuff like that? Or do you think it's really just a kind of a small drop in the bucket in the overall in the overall scene?
Yeah, I think it's a small drop in the bucket. It's it's just more eroding the distinction between bars and tap rooms, and
why do you think it doesn't matter if there's a distinction?
Well, if you are invested in the 3-tiered system, there is. Yeah,
you hate distributors.
I do.
Famously, famously hate distributors.
This is true, but I am dependent on them, and I am dependent on the 3-tiered system. Now, if we want to get rid of it, if we want to, say, hey, let's be like, and there's a lot of countries out there that don't have the 3-tiered system. I
Many,
would say
yeah.
most, well, then let's go do that, and give me some warning and, let me assess that situation. But that's not exactly what happened. It was more people blowing holes in it. The exceptions for some and not for all is what I guess.
What do you mean?
Got
there?
under. Well, like if a brewery being able to open a bar when I can't open a brewery, and I can't. I'm not allowed to open a Class 1 brewery.
Yeah.
I can open a brew pub, but I can't open a brewery. So they shouldn't be able to open a bar,
And you're saying that them allowing to sell their beer, other beer, cider, and probably wine. It sounds to me.
It's just mixing.
Not wine yet, but they're gonna try.
It looks like from the laws, cider is defined as wine, except for taxation reasons. And I don't know, when Danielle was on the show, she basically said, yeah, cider's wine. So, but anyway, someone could easily argue it at the very least. But,
Yeah,
and they'll try for it outright, I'm sure.
I'm interested to see what happens with, like the Goose Island Brew Pub. What if AB InBev decides we're going to start selling all of the AB InBev sort of craft portfolio in there?
I kind of think they can.
Oh, they definitely can.
Because
and
they're owned by ABI and they can sell any ABI beer, right?
So the thing is that after Prohibition we tried to prevent the Tide Pub, the big brewery owned bars from existing, and I think that is crumbling. And I think you will see.
I think we're trying to avoid tide houses.
It'll go from 3 to 6 to 20 to. I mean, really, and the funny thing is, if it does happen, it very well may be the little guys. The little guy may have 3 and want 6 and want then, more than 6, but who knows? I don't know.
I mean, the Ballast Point thing
know.
here is an example that, what if that's successful and they decide to open those across the country and then Sierra Nevada decides the same thing and Lagunitas decides the same
I
thing.
think Ballast Point has decided that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's pretty much what they're
Well, that's
are
the
now.
thing is if the walls do crumble, I mean, they're the ones who are going to be salivating to kind of jump in here.
Yeah.
And then, because then it will be down, and then it could, then they could start partnering with, you want to open a bar? Well, we're looking for partners.
Yeah.
We're looking.
What happens to
Bring back the old landlord.
Doesn't even
Yeah.
need to be a Ballast Point specifically branded. It can just be a Constellation place, It can just be you carry Constellation and or AB or whatever it is. And I mean, it's very blatant when you go to Europe and you go into bars and you see like, oh, okay, this is a Fuller's Pub.
Belgium's that way.
Yeah.
Very few bars in Belgium are truly independent.
I mean, quite frankly, and maybe it's less prevalent than it once was, but that was true in the U.S. too. Even with the 3-tiered system, you could very easily go into a bar and know that they were tied to this distributor or to this brewery.
Yeah.
So,
You still see it.
But
Yeah.
not at an ownership level.
not
That's the
at an
difference.
ownership level. But all this stuff is, it's not. It just all adds up, and I think we all got our panties in a bunch over this law change because it's just eroding things further. It's not a make or break law. None of us are going to close because of this particular law. It's just like it also sort of the attitude of the brewers, the breweries. Some of them that were just like
Open up a brew pub.
yeah. Just going, hey, sorry, we pulled one over on you, and maybe you should have had a lobbyist too. And a lot of us were kind of like, hey, I thought we were on the same team, and I kind of thought that I didn't have to police what the Craft Brewers Guild was doing because I kind of thought that they supported me and my business, So there was a bit of that, I'm over it. We will move on, and I will guarantee that the next time they try to change a law, they will hear from me even more than they did before, and I will voice my opinion, and I will call my lobbyists, and I will, which I already have, and I don't think they're going to have quite as easy time making another alteration to any of this stuff than they did this time.
I talked to a lobbyist too. I mean, I did just to kind of get their take on stuff, and
me too.
First time I'd ever done it. So
I look at. I mean, I think that people have been they've been pushing envelopes anyway. I mean, I've really wondered, like the Jolly Pumpkin thing. I mean,
yeah,
are they brewing any beer there?
I don't think so.
I don't think a drop of beer has been brewed there, but it's a brew pub, supposedly.
I think you have. There's something with it, like there's some sort of law or some sort of
well, they're spontaneously fermented. Maybe it's taking a long time.
Right? No, I think there's like a zero production a zero barrel like requirement.
Yeah, there is. You really don't have to make much.
I think it's zero.
I mean, Ballast Point has 40
zero.
taps. Last time I was there, 2 of them were made in-house.
Well, I know Danielle said you could have a 5-gallon system.
Yes.
Which is essentially nothing.
I have one of those.
And
that's my point, yeah.
Jolly Pumpkin, unlike most brew pubs, the brewing system is not visible to the customer. I mean, it's completely behind.
Oh.
Yeah. I mean,
I confess I've not been there yet.
you don't even know that they're brewing beer there. But it's like if the inspector comes in,
Right.
Now, Jolly Pumpkin's small enough probably that they can serve other people's beer.
Yeah.
They probably are.
We're out of time, guys.
Right.
I saved that for last, because I knew that would take us to the end.
I'm glad.
if
I'm
need
kind
be.
of a little tired of talking about it.
Yeah.
Me too.
I think we all are, but we were out of topics.
Good.
With only two guests, we kind of blew through the topics pretty quick. I wanted to thank my guests, Mr. Michael Roper of the Hop Leaf and Mr. Pat Berger of Kaiser Tiger and Patty Long's and the podcast Beer Opinions, which Mr. Roper has been a guest on 3 times, I hear.
Yeah, not as many as this one, but we've had them on.
Yeah, well. Is there anything either of you would like to say in closing very quickly?
No, nothing. Thank you, Chris. It was a pleasure being here.
Well, that's what I was hoping you would say.
Well, and maybe when I get back from Belgium, I can do a little report on what's going on there.
Please do.
On Beer Opinions.
Yep.
Please do. That's fine.
Chris and I are now fighting over guests.
That's right. Yeah. I'll be calling my podcast lobbyist over this.
I want to have you on too, by the way, Chris.
Yeah, again.
I know, because it wasn't very good audio.
Just
shocking.
Just invite me. That's the key. The first thing to do is invite me.
I just did.
All right. Thank you guys so much. We will see you next week for more of the Beer Temple Insiders Roundtable. So long.
Remember, this is what we said. To never be heard or seen from again. Remember, this is what we wanted.